Okay, this problem involves, you have to do some thinking and you have to do some assuming, but all in all, it's not a bad problem to fuss with, okay? So let's take a peek at it and see what we need to do, okay? First thing they tell us is that all jobs consist of 4 equal payments. When the job is completed, okay? And then 3 payments over the next 3 years. Okay, so that's what they're telling us. Now, what they're not giving us a whole lot of information about is that 30% down payment is one of the equal payments. Okay, so we have to kind of say that there's going to be a down payment and 3 equal installments over the next 3 years. Okay, so basically this company gets paid 4 payments each time. So if we take a look at the Bluebird job, the first one they ask us to talk about, okay, the Bluebird Motel, they owe us $401. Well, if they owe us $401, the job was finished in 2011. When it's finished, that's when we get a payment. So we got a payment at the beginning. Then after it's finished, we get them to sign a note for 3 additional payments, 3 additional equal payments. So we got one in 2012. We received that payment in 2012. This is 2013. There's 2 payments left. And those 2 payments left are $401. That implies that there are 4 payments of $205,000, or a total, what's that work out to? $802,000, right? $802,000 for the total. That's the total cost of the job. Now, of that $802,000, 30% of that is profit, therefore we need to, they're thinking about cost recovery. So 70% of that is costs. Okay, let me zoom back a little bit so you can see what I'm writing down there. 70% is cost, and 70% of $802,000 is $561,400 is our total cost. We need to consider that because it's asking us, what are we going to do with the cost recovery system? Okay, so now let's take a look, and if there's 30% profit on each of the payments, okay, because if we're using the installment sales method, each installment has some profit and some cost recovery. They're thinking about switching to the cost recovery method, which means they don't recognize any revenue or any profit, until all their costs are collected. So you have to get the pieces of this straight, okay? The other thing I would want to do is, I know that $401 is 2 payments. Therefore, each payment, like we said earlier, is $205. And $205 is 30% profit. So 30% profit on 205 is what? Got to figure out the profit on that. 30% of 205 is 6,150. Yeah, okay, 60,150. That's the profit. So each one of these $205,000 payments is $60,150 in profit, and the rest is in cost recovery. So under the installment sales method, this is what we recognize each year. Okay. Under the cost recovery method, we wouldn't recognize any until all costs are recovered. So let's take a look at the pit stop and figure out, do the same thing for them, okay? Let's take a look. We'll do our scribbling up here for pit stop so we're not trying to write real tiny. Now, pit stop, the job was completed, they tell us what, the job was completed in 10, so there's a payment made in 10, then there's one in 11, and then there's one in 12, and so there's only one payment left. And that's $160,000. One payment left of $160,000. And they tell us that $160,000 payment is, what's the profit margin on that? 35%. That's the profit. So $160,000, 35% of that is $56,000. So I think we have all the numbers we need. And because it's asking us to take a look at this and to advise this fella, here's the question. He's been considering switching from cost to sales because he wants to share the highest gross profit in 2013, and he understands that the installment sales method shows profit sooner, because it does. Because remember, the cost recovery method shows no profit until the end. The installment sales method shows some profit each year. So let's take a look at this. We're just going to go back and get, now the Bluebird Motel, that was the one that's already finished pretty much. So the cost recovery, we've already recovered the cost on that, okay? So the installment sales method says we're just going to be able to recognize the $60,150. Now the pit stop, if we use the cost recovery method, we haven't recovered any of their costs, so they can recognize $160,000 of cost recovery. So that's going to put off all $160,000 of that collection because they haven't covered their cost yet. Whereas if they use the installments, they can recognize $56,000. And it says if this guy is concerned with about 2013, just 2013, do you think he'd be happy with the switch to installment sales? And it says no, because he's already recovered some costs, so there's no real benefit for him. If he sticks with the cost recovery method, he can defer some of those profits until a later date. So you had to do some thinking on that. You had to fuss with that. So good job on it. Think about it, play with it. You'll be fine.